And here the fact that President Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing. In a statement yesterday, the White House described these allegations as, quote, completely baseless, backed by zero credible evidence.
The U.S. Justice Department has released documents involving President Trump that had been missing, suspiciously rather, from the Epstein files. They include FBI memos from 3 interviews with a woman who alleges she was sexually assaulted by then citizen Trump when she was a teenager. The president has consistently denied any wrongdoing. We should note that the inclusion of interviews in the Epstein files is not necessarily evidence of wrongdoing. It is an interview. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt slammed the release of the documents, saying in part, quote, the total baselessness of these accusations is also supported by the obvious fact that Joe Biden's Department of Justice knew about them for 4 years and did nothing with them because they knew President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong, unquote. As the Trump White House continues to shrug off the scandal, Congress is pushing ahead, voting to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi. The subpoena to testify stems from the House Oversight Committee's investigation into the Epstein files and the federal government's handling of the case against Epstein and his sex trafficking accomplices. My next guest is a survivor of Epstein. Annie Farmer joins us now. Annie, let me start off by saying I know asking you about the worst experience of your life is not fun for you, not really for me either. How are you?
Oh, I appreciate that, Jake. I'm doing all right. I'm glad to be with you.
What questions might you have for Attorney General Pam Bondi?
I have a lot. I was actually really happy to see that Pam Bondi has, there was people on both sides of the aisle came together to say that she needs to testify between the House Oversight Committee, because I think, when she was in front of the Judiciary Committee, she refused to even acknowledge survivors. The questions that were asked, there was a lot of, deflection and avoidance. And so really, we still don't understand how this release of information was so terribly botched when again and again, we see powerful people being protected and information about survivors, not being properly redacted. So I think we have a lot of questions for her.
I'll remind our viewers that when Attorney General Bondi was asked about a matter relating to the Epstein files, she started talking about how the Dow had reached 50,000, and that's what members of Congress should have been focused on. Over the last few weeks, we have seen across the pond in foreign countries, investigations start, foreign leaders get in trouble, even a former member of the Royals. There has been some accountability for actions related to the case. What does it tell you that the U.S. government is not, at least as far as we know, doing so in terms of investigations and accountability?
I think a lot of people are looking at this and wondering why. What is it that's different that's happening here? I mean, we know this was a global conspiracy. So, there were people all over the world involved in this operation. And so I'm glad to see that people are doing things overseas. It makes me hopeful that real investigations could happen. But I do feel frustrated that that's not happening here. I think we need more of that.
You were invited to the State of the Union address last week. Tell us about that experience.
I was able to go with Congressman Robert Garcia, and he's been a real champion for this investigation in the House Oversight Committee. So I was glad to be there with him. It was actually pretty challenging, though, to sit through Trump's speech when it seemed like he just had a different vision of the country that he was presenting, a different vision of events. He, of course, did not acknowledge any of the survivors that were present, and we weren't really expecting him to, but we were there to remind him that we're not going away, that, the United States, I think, is very much still interested in getting to the bottom of this and wants answers.
Annie Farmer, thank you so much, and best to your sister as well. We appreciate your coming here today and know it's not easy.
A very rare and stunning rebuke of the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, by members of the president's own party. Yes, 5 Republicans on the key House Oversight Committee defying their chairman and joining with Democrats to subpoena Bondi over the Justice Department's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case.
CNN crime and justice correspondent Caitlin Polance is here with us. So tell us more about what these lawmakers want from the Attorney General.
Well, they're making a turn. A lot of this investigation the House Oversight Committee has done around Jeffrey Epstein has been talking to people about Epstein himself. They brought in former President Bill Clinton for a deposition. They had Bill Barr, a predecessor of Pam Bondi. But now it's a question of how the Justice Department, under Bondi's watch, handled the redaction, the processing, and the public release of these files after Congress mandated transparency for them. The Representative Nancy Mace, a Republican on the committee, was the one that moved to subpoena Bondi for testimony about this and has made clear one of the issues here for the committee is that not all of the Epstein files have been released. Congress is not happy with the Justice Department and with Pam Bondi. And really, it has been a boondoggle for the Justice Department as they've been working through these files and getting them up. There were failures to redact information of victims, exposing survivors' private information. There are documents that have not been released.
You already referenced, Licia did as well in the intro, about how heavily redacted these documents are. Not just the documents that we've already seen, but these 302s in particular. Talk a little bit more about the redaction. Is there anything that can be done about the redaction? Because I firmly believe the moment you can pull back the cover on a name and expose it fully, you have vindicated these women. And that frustration that I felt when you were reading what she said to that agent can be addressed.
Michael, it's a really, really tricky thing, right? Because I agree with you. I talk to a lot of these survivors, including survivors for whom 302s are already in the files. And when I speak to them, I often learn things that you can't see in these produced 302s because of how heavy the redactions are. I'm thinking about someone I even spoke to earlier today. At the same time, there are members of Congress who obviously we know have access to see these files. They can see what we cannot. And yet, we know from the experiences of certain members that when they try to put those names in the public domain, oftentimes they're not the people that they think they are. They make assertions about who they believe these people to be and then find out, lo and behold, they are not those folks at all. It's somewhat of a dangerous game that we are all playing here. And the only people that are able to see these documents in their fully unredacted form either work at the Department of Justice or they are elected as members of the House of Representatives in the United States Senate. And that is the unfortunate reality in which all of us, including and most importantly, the survivors, are living right now.
This comes as just yesterday, the House Oversight Committee voted to subpoena Pam Bondi in this probe. What do you make of the timing of this release?
I think that this release has a lot to do with that response. There was some reporting last week in both The Guardian and in Breitbart discrediting this particular accuser, quoting from the same 302s that had been produced. And of course, people like me were wondering, how did they possibly see those? So the fact that they are in the public domain right now, I think, is an effort to quell some of the loud shouting that folks have done about our reporting and others, identifying these as documents that are missing from the production. And all I'll say about that is these may be the most salacious missing documents from the production, but they are hardly the only one. The Department of Justice has left behind indices of prior witness statements for more than 500 people, almost 600 people. And if you look at those indices carefully and you sort of reverse engineer it, you can see all sorts of instances where people whose names are known and people whose names are not known have prior statements in the form of 302s or handwritten notes that are missing from the files. Some of those people have also made allegations, Alicia, against other prominent people in American life. They may not have ever been elected president, but they are people that the committee might be interested in. They're certainly people for whom the survivor community is interested in seeing some accountability. I would like the Department of Justice to take seriously the possibility that their production was under-inclusive and non-compliant with the law.
Yeah. Yeah,
there you go.
To say the least. They broke the law, I would argue. Also, Howard Lutnick is now going to testify on the Epstein files, just from Axios. This is what Lutnick told Axios. I look forward to appearing before the committee. I've done nothing wrong, and I want to set the record straight. It's worth mentioning that the reason Howard Lutnick has to be subpoenaed and before the committee is in fact because he went on a podcast and told what we now found out to be a lie about his association or the lack thereof with Jeffrey Epstein.
Done nothing wrong. You don't need a subpoena.
Come on.
Trump is engaging in international conflict, whether that's like armed conflict with bombs and all that, or like the tariffs and the threats to Greenland and Canada, all of that. That's being done because, yes, Trump's a tyrannical monster. Yes, like those things are happening for a reason. But one of those reasons is because he doesn't want you talking about these stories. Stories about young women mentioning Trump doing unspeakable things. And these things being not only redacted from the files illegally, but being so hidden that they were originally not even in the list of redacted files. Remember, that is doubly illegal. When the law was passed, and Trump signed this law, and he only signed it because the American people scared Republicans into backing Democrats and backing the few Republicans like Thomas Massie that actually were principled from day one on this issue. But they scared the Republicans into putting forth such support that Trump couldn't even veto it, so he didn't bother to try, to open up all the files. And the only redaction exception was to protect the innocent, to protect the people that were actually harmed in this world of Jeff and Ghislaine and you know, other buddies of Trump. And of course, what we saw is that the files came out too late, illegal. There were names that were redacted that shouldn't have been redacted, illegal. There were some names that should have been redacted but weren't, illegal, so it's triple illegal. And then we found out that there were files that were so hidden that they weren't even redacted. Like they didn't just protect Trump by redacting him. They hid files so completely that they were sort of put aside in a special file or box hidden in some basement or some random computer hard drive to quadruply make this illegal. But the pressure is too much. They had to admit that. And what they say is that the claims referenced towards Trump are inexcusable, unspeakable, and barbaric. This should end his career. Look, in a court under reasonable doubt, he has not been proven guilty. He has not. We got to be clear. Although civilly, what he did to Jean Carroll, he was found civilly liable of that. But he hasn't been convicted. But the bar for criminal conviction is lower than losing your job. And he should lose his job over this.